the juicy details. Let's just, if you would, introduce yourself, kind of where you are, what your intro, your background, that kind of thing. I mean, we're talking lifetime achievement here, so you don't have to get into all of it by any means. But just kind of give us a little taste.
Well, I suppose it was my upbringing, really. I was born into a labour and trade union movement family, where social justice was a way of life. My grandmother was, she could have been one of the original suffragettes, actually, because where women were concerned, she was the one that always was there in the front line. She actually was a force to reckon with, and she was in every organisation. And in these days, that just wasn't done. You know, women had their place.
Yeah.
So a lot of that rubbed off on me. So I suppose, you know, some of my own family say that I was like my grandmother. So, but
it got passed down.
yes, and I think it has gone through the family because my daughter's the same. She's quite active as well.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And you're based in Dundee?
Yes, I'm a Dundee Labour councillor.
Yep.
Have been there for nearly 44 years now. Coming up in May, it'll be 44 years. It's been a huge part of my life.
Yeah.
I see a lot of injustices. I see a lot of poverty. I see a lot of pain in people, you know, when they're suffering, when they can't get something done. And I think that's what puts me into overdrive. If a problem arises, I go into overdrive. And I don't just write a letter and hope that somebody will say, oh, she's written a letter. I actually go face to face with officers and plead the cases of people. So a lot of people all over Dundee come to me because they know that I've got a track record. But some cases you just can't solve, and there's some really sad cases I've got at the moment that actually upsets me, you know, because you can see there is a way through it, but the person can't see the way through it, and sometimes because of the budget cuts and everything else like that, there's not enough money to do things. But I do try my best. Obviously, when I came into local government in 1980, that I was the first female in that particular Dundee City Council, Dundee District Council, and life wasn't very easy for women at that time. You know, I had been a national official on Mode Train Union, so I was used to fighting my battles. But I do remember my daughter was about 6, 7 months old when I went into the chambers with the buggy and climbed the stairs. Nobody seemed to help, but I got there and I rolled to the councillors' lounge we had in our buggy, and at the side of my eye I could see a council officer going behind me. The pram had been making rungs in the carpet, you know, it had been leaving a mark where it had gone across, because it was quite a plush carpet. And he was going behind me with a brush, sort of,
and like fixing the carpet.
So they had to get used to having a councillor there that was basically had a baby, and my son was born during my first term of office, and so there were two. There was a toddler and a baby at one point in time. So there was all sorts of debates about where would the nappies go and what would happen, and you know, some people just weren't particularly happy. You know, women should stay at the house and look after their kids. But
and so you have been in Dundee. I'm trying to get the timeline right. So you've been in Dundee for 44 years. Is that right?
Longer than that. I came to Dundee earlier when I met my husband.
Okay.
But I'd been a national official in the 60s, 70s, which was AUAW TAS, which was the male, you know, the engineering union's technical section.
Okay. And what was that kind of spark for you that I mean so you talk about your family, your grandmother who really inspired you. Was there anything like that particularly happened that you were like, well, it's this is I'm getting in, or was it just kind of
Yeah.
gradual and just kind of like you realized it over time that was what you were wanting to do?
Yeah, I think it hit me at an early age.
Yeah.
I don't know if I spoke to you about this, but I mean, my early days was being prammed in to a Labour Party meeting because the family were all activists and I
So
had to
you
sit
were
and
in
listen
the
to it.
pram, and then
Yeah,
eventually,
so I
what?
used
Yeah.
to get a sweetie or a cake or a biscuit for the people, and that was my enjoyment. But then, as I got older,
Yeah.
I actually went up a peg because then I helped serve the teas and the coffees
Yeah.
to people at the meetings. And then when I was a bit older, I started to listen to what was getting said, and then one day I didn't really agree with it, so I asked why. I challenged them,
Interesting.
and I actually didn't get a very good answer, and it
Yeah.
bothered me. And I thought I need to get more involved here.
Yeah.
So it was like a natural progression for
That's
me.
incredible. I love
And
it.
then I worked at the sea oil base, in Montrose. But in my earlier jobs, were traditionally, I was a cashier
Mm-hmm.
in the local cooperative,
Yeah.
which you would do because everybody worked for them in these days.
Yeah.
Uh, but it was just I was part of the union. I joined the
Yeah.
union, and they started speaking about different things. And of course, my
Mm-hmm.
grandmother was always involved in the women's movement, and in particular older people's movement as well.
Yeah.
So it was it was just there was a job needed to be done,
Yep.
and I was there at the time, so
Yeah.
I just stepped up and did the job. So it was
Yeah.
something that I was used to doing.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, I volunteered for my grandmother. She run an old pensioners forum, uh,
Okay.
what we would call a pensioners forum.
Yeah.
It was older people. I think it was age concerned in the early days,
Mm-hmm.
and they would do they would fundraise for money to send the pensioners on a bus trip to the
Mm-hmm.
seaside, or to have a Christmas party, or to give them
Yeah.
a gift or something.
Yeah.
So there was a group of us, my cousins and I, and a couple of my friends, and
Yeah.
we used to do odd jobs. And my grandmother used to phone up and say, you needed to go here at
Mm-hmm.
that time. So I would land up cleaning somebody's windows, and then they would give a donation to the fund,
Yep.
uh, and that was it. But there was
Yeah.
one old lady who actually lived across the road from me, and I mean I can't say I ever didn't like doing something, but
Yeah.
I didn't like the reward that she gave me. She used to phone up just when the I think we were one of the first people in the street to get a phone. So she
Uh-huh.
would phone across and say, would Helen go to the fish and chip shop to get my tea? And it was
Yeah.
just right when the children's television was on. So I had to go and get my
Oh.
bike out, go away, get the fish and chips, and go back to her. And what happened there is she used to reward me with an end slice of bread, which was about this thick, and
Okay.
it was smothered with butter and
Oh.
covered with sugar, and
Oh.
it was yucky.
Oh, we
You
didn't
know,
like it.
no,
Okay.
oh no, I used to feel the butter squelching through your teeth,
Oh,
and the sugar
no.
gritting. So, and she used to say, I say, no, my mum says I'm not to take anything because I've got to go and get my tea.
And
And
yeah.
she used to insist I take at least one bite out of it,
Oh
before
my
I left.
goodness.
And she would put it in a
Wow.
paper bag. So,
So you take it with you.
yeah,
What a start. What a start. And those beginnings have brought you a long way. So you've
I think it,
accomplished so much. Go, yeah, go for it.
it, it, it was the whole inequalities
Yes.
things, you know, where people really weren't equal. Women did have a rough time in these days, you know. They accepted their place, and I didn't quite see it that way.
Yeah.
But that was probably because of my grandmother's influence, you know, that if, even although you were a woman, there was things you could do to make a difference, which is I still do today.
Of course, of course. So she was the one that was kind of opening your eyes and changing your mind about that. But at the same time, you know, it sounds like that was just kind of an innate thing, and through being involved in those meetings and in the community, you could, you know, start to chip away at that. Like I loved when you said, well, I was serving tea, and then I asked him why it was like that, and I didn't really, you know, love the answer. So that's absolutely, you know, I think so relatable too. Like so many people are just kind of bit by bit, you know, maybe giving here or there, but realizing I don't know if I totally agree with that, and I might try and actually make a difference. So that's brilliant. And so that's kind of a little bit about how you started uh in your journey. I'm curious kind of on
Yeah.
like all these wonderful projects you've done, some of the ones that you're most proud of. You know, it's you've done so much, and you know, you've really focused a lot, like we've talked about, on women, on that equalities. um you know, just I'm just kind of curious about, you know, anything you know, as you reflect on this kind of lifetime achievement award, what are those bright spots that stand out in particular?
I think it's hard to pin down anything specific, but it was much easier when I went in 1980. I had various convenerships because we were in administration, and you'll have seen the list of convenerships that I've had. And it's a combination of all the knowledge that I had, even in the criminal justice service, like 18 years on the bench as a magistrate, 26 years as a prison visitor. The social work, I had social work convenership for about 12 years, which took in criminal justice services, and also I chaired the Community Justice Authority for Tayside and also for Scotland for a few years, until they did away with it. So it's a combination of the knowledge, and during that particular time, with the criminal justice services, there was a lot of inequalities, and I had actually the 26 years I had been with Cortonvale Prison, as well as other prisons, but the we could see where the problems were with women, and I argued with the Scottish Prison Service for years that we should have an alternative for women to actually a prison, and eventually got listened to, you
Yeah.
know, administration, but I managed to keep the Tayside Community Justice Authority hat. So I was still able to influence, and that's when they said, well, what we talking about? Said, well, it's not a prison for a start, it's a facility for women. Because a lot of the local women, when I was going prison visiting, they were missing their kids. They couldn't afford to bring them to the prison to see the women. So we wanted something local,
Okay.
and it eventually landed up in my own ward, and which was which was fine.
Yeah.
It didn't bother me one bit, but the
Yeah.
community didn't like it one little bit.
Yeah,
You
a
know,
lot of
they
that
thought they were
community is
getting a prison with murderers and drug dealers
yeah.
and everything else. But a lot of the women, although they fell into that category, were actually trying to turn their lives around, and that's what we'd hoped would happen.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, the night the council took a vote on it, about the planning, I actually was in London at my daughter's, so I got up at 4 o'clock in the morning. I drove back to Dundee
Wow.
so that I could actually vote for it, and the other
Yeah.
3 councillors for the area, um, they voted against it, and I voted for I voted for it. So we got it. So
Wow. So that was a drive well worth it for you.
yes,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, it was in a way, but there was a backlash because folk,
I'm
well,
sure.
some of my own colleagues thought, well, that's you. You've shot yourself in the foot. You're not
Yeah.
gonna win the next election. But
Right.
actually, it did.
You actually did. And
Yeah.
I'm curious about the community response and how that's, because honestly, I mean, this is just, from in my neighborhood in London, it's we have a center here that's a rehabilitation center just around the
Uh-huh.
corner. And I just hear a lot of a lot of that NIMBY, a lot of that negativity
Yeah.
from my neighbors. But I also think, but these are people who, they're just neighbors in a different way, and they're people, like you say, trying to turn their lives around. I wonder if there was like kind of community, how did that evolve, if that makes
Yeah. Well, they had demolished a school in that area
sense.
because it wasn't really a very good
Mm,
building. So, and a new school was built. It was a pretty rundown area, and of course, everybody thought it was going to look like a prison. It was going to be a prison. There were going to be
yeah,
There is CCD
sure.
cameras there, but in actual fact, it protects the case. But it was my house will go down in value.
Right.
Uh, there'll be drug dealers hanging about outside, and I'm
Yeah.
going to get bothered with all the troubles, and there's going to be fights,
Yeah.
and but once you spoke to folk and tried to reason with them, some of them you couldn't reason with, but
Yeah.
some of them did eventually come along
Yeah.
when they got more information. And the
Yeah.
prison service was good. They came to Dundee and
Mm,
spent a lot of time with the community.
mm,
I took a lot of flack for it, but at the
I'm
end of
sure.
the day, it's bedded down. It looks good. The
Yeah.
area has been brought up.
Mm,
Some other new houses have been built round about.
yeah.
The new community school looks good.
Yeah.
So, and it's
Yeah.
probably safer than it was
Probably
before.
safer than it was before, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
we never hear any problems from
Yeah.
that now.
And on that note about kind of that community dialogue that you were talking about, I know that you hold, I think it's 5 surgeries a week.
Yeah, actually, yeah.
That is so incredible. And you're still
Can you
holding.
see that?
Let
Can you
me
see it?
hold it up higher. Yes, there they are. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh. So, and
And I used
you're
to
still,
hold 10. It
you
used to be
used to hold
10.
10, and you're still
Uh,
holding the one that you started
yeah,
decades,
in
right?
1980. Yes.
Tell me about your surgeries, and I don't do you still have people coming in and talking to you,
Yeah.
and just what that's like? I feel like it's surgeries are something, at least maybe it's because of where I live, you just don't hear as much about them, being that kind of connection point, and
Uh-huh.
so I'd love to hear.
Well, surgeries, we decided in 1980 when we went in as the administration, because we'd just taken it from the Conservatives.
Yeah.
So we decided to banish the robes.
Yeah.
The Lord Provost got to keep his chain,
Mhm.
but we decided to be more accessible,
Absolutely.
to go out into the community to hold surgeries. So I was quite quick in getting mine up and running. The
Yeah.
first one was the Coldside Library,
Yeah.
which was right in the centre of the ward.
Yeah.
And I mean, the actually, I don't think I've ever, well, I've maybe had a few surgeries where nobody turned up at that one, but that's really busy surgery, that, because
Mhm.
it's a Saturday, and it's the
Saturday.
only Saturday surgery
Yeah.
that anybody has. And I
Yeah.
think if you're working, you need to come,
Exactly.
plus it's
Exactly.
a good place to come. I do other ones in sheltered housing complexes, but some people are concerned about um, people speak,
Sure,
if they're saying speaking to you, although everything's done very confidential and private, and I think I love surgeries because it's about speaking to, it's about communicating with the public.
Exactly.
It's not the first time I've been in tears actually listening to somebody tell me their story.
Wow.
But it does me good because I feel quite good when I've been able to help them, because they come back, they've got a smile on their face, and they don't always say thank you, but I think the relief actually getting whatever it was they needed done. And I mean, it's could be anything for a repair, to a personal problem, to a legal problem, and I can always manage to put them in the right direction. So, no, I'm quite busy. My surgeries are quite busy. I have another, but I'm still doing the same surgery, and the only time I miss it is if I'm off sick or if I'm out the country. Usually, if I'm in Dundee, I just do it because some people do it and they put on their website. In fact, I tried it once and it didn't really work for me to say that not during school holidays. So I just keep going.
You're just consistent. You're just
Yeah,
rolling all the time.
yeah.
All the
Because
time.
if people know that they can get you on that day at a certain place, that's
That's the
good.
thing, is that touch point, and they know you're always there, and then they're more, if it becomes irregular, people lose that ability, and that makes
Yes.
complete sense. Well, I was curious. So something we've been talking about a lot as an organization this year is the risks and rewards of being a counselor, and you have such a wealth to draw on, and we've talked about a lot of it already. So, but just kind of, if anything comes to mind as particularly risky, in your role, or anything that kind of has felt particularly challenging, or I should say, and anything that's been particularly rewarding, which we have touched on, like you said, might not be a thank you, but it might be that sense of relief from somebody, or just getting things done, making a difference, anything like that.
Yeah. I think I communicate with officers usually face to face, or by email or on Teams, but it's normally face to face. And if you put a good case for somebody, you can get a good result, especially you're there putting the case that they've given you. Um, I think that's reward enough coming back to me. In fact, I have such a busy surgery and I get a lot of emails. So I get satisfied quite a lot every day actually when I see an email coming back saying this has been done or this is going to be done, and then I inform the people
It's
that
sort
it's
of
going to be.
like your battery. It's not like one big thing that you're like, oh, this charged me up to 100%. It's like just
Yeah,
tick 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 tick, like all those little wins kind of adding up.
yeah, and I take it to the limit. Um, I I don't accept something if I don't think that I've got the right if I've got the wrong answer to it. I challenge again.
Keep going.
I keep going until I get what I'm looking for. But there are disadvantages. I, you know, I think in this day and age, I think a lot of councillors and elected members all over actually do worry about being in public spaces.
Mm-hmm.
And it's something that's never really bothered me until last year, when I had a stalker at my surgery. He actually had a bona fide claim. He had a bona fide excuse to be there.
Okay.
But he started recording. He came in with a body cam, like the police have, a body cam, and had recorded speaking to the staff outside. I'm on my way to see Councillor Helen Wright, not that thing that showed any good. And then goes in and asks, and then he's recording. I asked him not to. I said, look, I'm sorry, it's my choice. I'll take you if you switch that off. But if you're going to continue recording, I'm not gonna take you. write to me, and I'll still process your problem. But he didn't really want to do that. But he had done it apparently to other officers of the council. So
yeah.
and I
So
suppose I should be careful in case it could be identified. But he did put it on YouTube, the whole 45 minutes of the interview that I had. So and it happened again, and the staff weren't very happy about it. So we made a complaint. So he was banned from public buildings for a set period of time.
Yeah.
But touch wood, he's not
Yeah,
bothered me since.
touch wood, and it sounds like that sounds like something that's very disconcerting and makes complete sense. And it sounds like you did, the right thing, or at least as best you could with, communicating. And it was like you were safe in that so far, in that, it's a public situation. But
yeah, I think my years coming up through a male trade union, and also my experience in my own business, where we run a catering company. We had a restaurant and a catering business, so there was bars and that. So I was used to actually dealing with
can diffuse the situation
with the crowd, yes, and obviously my experience on the bench, and I mean, I had actually during my visiting time, we went to Carstairs, and we had to have training to go into places like that, so that we could, deal with anything. So I really didn't have any fear of it because my training was good, but I actually, when I come home after that day, my husband sort of sensed that something was wrong. He said, "What's wrong?" I said, "Oh, I've just had somebody at my surgery," and and then when we discovered they had recorded, my husband saying, you have to be more careful, Helen, because I spent 45 minutes with him, and I mean, we know what have happened to other people in similar circumstances. But I've never really had any fear, because sometimes, you try to have faith in people.
Yeah. No, that's so true. That's so true. Well, thank you for sharing that with me, and I'm really sorry that happened, and I'm so glad you're okay and cared for, and have that community support.
Yeah, but councillors get a lot of abuse. That never used to happen. There was a certain respect that somebody was there to help you, and you were there to help them. There was a sort of mutual, sense of togetherness. But I mean, I've had it a couple of times, but not much, where people curse and swear at you, tell you that you're a waste of space. But in actual fact, my view on that is, if you let somebody get it off their chest, they need to tell you what they're thinking. And once they calm down, then you can get down to the subject matter and say, right, well, you tell me what I can do to help you get out of this situation. And then usually it's diffused, and that's it. You get something from them.
That's so interesting. That's such a like that is such a practical way. I think that's the most practical way I've heard for counselors in that situation, which is to view that energy that you're getting as actually you're helping them to get something off their chest. And you're there acting as the diffuser, and then using that diffuse situation to actually get at what you could do to help, or solving the problem. And that's really lovely, really helpful. Well, I don't want to take up too much more of your time. I'm sure you have so much going on, but this has been absolutely wonderful. If I can just ask one, maybe two more quick questions. First one, what advice would you give to young counselors or new counselors you know, as they're starting out, potentially the ones who, you know, are really interested in equality, fairness, maybe women out there, especially because it's International Women's Day, just anything you would kind of, you know, pass along?
I think I would say to them is don't rush. That
Mm,
there's always a feeling once you get someplace to rush. I think you have to make sure of your facts, you've got to do your homework so that you know exactly what you're talking about and that you're not saying something that you later regret.
mm-hmm,
Um, I think it's quite frightening being a new councillor. I know when I was a new councillor, people said, "Oh, we'll help you,"
mm,
but when the time come, there wasn't any help. You know, I had to
mm.
pretty well sort of try
Figure
and
it
just
out
suss
on
it
your
out
own.
myself. So now we do training for people coming in that are new, so that they've got a good grip of things. But I would say to women who are thinking they've not got time
Mm,
because of their household and because maybe another job that they have, not to let that hold them back. If they have strong feelings, if there's been an inequality that they want to see put right, they
mm-hmm.
should go for it.
Go
But
for it.
just new councillors should not jump in with 2 feet. They
Mm,
should make sure that they've got the right information,
okay.
that they're well equipped to deal with what they're doing. And I mean, we have 4 new councillors at the moment. 3 are women, and they're doing really well at the moment.
Yeah.
You know,
Well,
but
that's so
they
good.
they do come. We try to mentor them.
Yeah.
Uh, some might need more mentoring than others, but it's about
Yeah.
encouraging them, encouraging them to speak up at meetings,
Mm,
to help them with a subject matter, to help them with a speech,
mm,
basically to cheer them on.
yeah.
Because I think if you're not very confident, I think if you hear somebody telling you that was fantastic,
Yeah.
um, you know, uh, you're going to be a great orator.
Yeah.
I think that does help.
Yeah.
Um,
I love
and
that. Sorry. No, no, no. Continue. Continue. Sorry.
no, I think most people appreciate it, but some people may come in with different ideas and they're not used to the discipline within
Yeah.
the group situation.
Mm,
So it's a learning process for
it's
them.
learning. Yeah.
And they do come and ask if they're not sure about what to do so
Mm-hmm,
that they know that they're not making a mistake.
mm-hmm. Good. So it's sort of, you know, part of it is seek out that mentorship, is seek out, ask those questions.
Yeah,
Go
yeah,
slow. I love that advice to go slow, and so that you can see that longevity probably once you.
And then we had one female councillor made a fantastic speech at one of the meetings not so long ago, and it was a great speech, and she
Yeah.
had it well thought out.
Yeah.
And I mean, we were all congratulating her
Yeah.
because she had done a good job, and I think that was important. And instead of jumping in with question, to think about what you really want to say, and
Mm,
that certainly she was really good.
really
She did
soft.
a good job.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think women do make good counsellors.
Oh, of course. Absolutely. Oh, 1,000%. So, what? Okay, my last question is lifetime achievement winner. What legacy are you hoping to leave behind when you're, in this local government sector?
Yeah, well, I never expected to win any or have any rewards for
Mhm.
anything because it's a job. If it needed done, I just got on and done it. It just happened. But I think if I was going to have any award, I thought that the local government one was the one to get,
Yeah,
because I was so emotional about it and I was
I
so
know.
pleased and happy. If I've got a legacy to leave, women can do anything if they put their mind to it.
Yes. Mm,
I
yeah.
think that's it. And I've proved it. I've been through a lot of trials and errors when I was the Lord Provost. It wasn't made easy for me to be. I was the first female. You would expect that the first female would have been supported, but that wasn't the case. A lot of people worked against me, actually, and I was accused of things that I wasn't guilty of, and managed to clear my name, and I'm still standing, you know.
Yeah. Oh.
But I think I'm 80 now, so you know, I've got another 3 years to do. But I think I mean, I'll still help any way I can, but I don't think I could probably stand another election. Although I'm looking forward to this one. I'm looking forward to the next one, and we are encouraging women to put themselves forward. We've got a couple of women who will put themselves forward, and for the Scottish Parliament. And I'm working on trying to bring more women on for local government one.
Brilliant. Oh, well, we would love to support you in whatever way we can. Helen, your work, it's honestly an honor for me to get to talk to you. And
heavens, no.
Oh, no, it is. It is. It is.
And I just like, I blether. I'm sorry, I just blether.
No.
We have a blether club, an older people's blether club that we started.
Well, I blather just as much. So I would love to. I will be vice president of the blather club along with.
Yeah, good. I'll tell you, you would if you come to Scotland. If you get a chance to come to Scotland again, I would take you there, because it's a lot of people that, you know, it was during lockdown. We weren't able to open up the sheltered complex, and I was so angry because they could go to a football match, they could go and have meals in restaurants that had 60 people in it, but they couldn't go to their complex to get a cup of coffee with their sheltered warden, you know, who they look on as their friend. So we started this cafe up. The Friary gave us part of their cafe, and we've operated there ever since, and it's just gone from strength to strength. And I really enjoy it, and I enjoy a good game of bingo as well. Oh
my God, let's do it. Let's go. I'm coming. Next time I'm up there, it's happening. Oh my God.